Eric Wong, and in the next few minutes, you're going to be let in on 3 simple principles that will give you explosive power and endless cardio by training less than you ever have before. I know this may sound ridiculous, but I'm going to show you exactly how in this presentation. It will all be crystal clear, so stay with me. These principles are already transforming the fitness levels of UFC fighters, amateurs, and guys who train simply for the love of the sport. Not with some magical supplement, the latest hardcore tool, or a brand new fighter-endorsed doohickey. This is happening through the application of exercise science and the trial and error that comes from being in the trenches, training real fighters on a daily basis. If you're a fighter, you'll use the principles in this presentation to rapidly elevate your power, allowing you to execute explosive takedowns or end the fight with one big punch. You'll also be able to tap into this power over and over, giving you total confidence and, more importantly, the ability to go the distance and beat guys who may be more skilled than you but can't match your superior level of conditioning. Or, if you train MMA as a hobby and you have no intentions of fighting, you'll develop your skills faster and have more fun in your classes because you'll be able to train harder and longer and you won't be stuck on the side catching your breath. And that's just for starters. So watch this short presentation to the end and you'll be rewarded with these 3 simple principles that you can apply to your training today to get faster results while training less than you ever have before. Now, you're here today because you want more power and better conditioning. You wouldn't have found this site if you didn't, right? But the problem is that all of the information out there in magazines, forums, and on the web can leave you a bit confused. And unless you train MMA as your full-time job, you don't have any time or energy to waste on ineffective workouts. So you've got to make sure every workout counts. But before we continue, you might be thinking, can I trust this guy? Well, no, don't just trust me, but watch this entire presentation, then decide for yourself. The fact is that the principles I'm about to share with you have already been proven on fighters I train. Guys like Claude Patrick, who's on the rise in the UFC welterweight division with 2 straight wins and a 13-1 overall MMA record. Ray the Hitman Penny, who was afraid to go the distance before he started training with me, but after 4 months, he won his next fight by unanimous decision, and his next fight after that he won by knockout 8 seconds into the first round. And Jeff Joslin, who made his UFC debut against Josh Koscheck and took the tough welterweight to a judge's decision. Now, when I first started working with Jeff in 2006, I discovered that even though he was successful, his strength and conditioning program had serious holes. As I started working with more fighters, I started to see the same patterns over and over. The first problem I found was that most fighters are winging it instead of following a structured program. Without a program in place, there's no way you can make consistent progress and get optimal results. You probably hear this all the time when you show up to the gym and hear a guy asking his buddy, "So what do you want to work on today?" This will not produce results. Imagine you've been training with one of the top MMA teams for the past 2 years, like Greg Jackson's camp. You have a fight against a guy who's been winging it on his own with his buddies in his backyard for the past 2 years. Who's going to win, you or him? For optimal results, you must know the exact exercises, reps, weights, number of sets, and rest periods you're going to use. You need a program that builds on what you've previously done. What's the old saying? Fail to plan? If you said plan to fail in your head, then you've just shown that you already know this. But are you doing it? If you're not, don't worry, it's not your fault. The thing is, you've never been shown how to do this in a way that's easy to follow and incorporates everything you need. Once you know exactly what you're going to be doing each session and over the next month and the next 3 months, you'll be more focused and motivated, and you'll dramatically accelerate your progress. Not only that, but certain attributes must be developed before others. So even if you are following a program, if it's not put together in the right order, you're leaving results on the table. Doing the right things in the right order doesn't take any extra energy, but it will give you better results. And here's the first principle in action, the principle of periodization. Periodization is basically a fancy term for doing the right things in the right order to achieve your goals. Periodization is saying, you're here, this is where you want to be in 12 weeks, and this is exactly what you're going to do every workout to ensure you get there. If you're a fighter, following a periodized program will allow you to work towards your fight, so that when you step into the cage, you're at your physical peak, and you have 100% confidence in your conditioning. If you train for fun, you'll be able to continue to get results, because unlike other programs, Right before you hit a plateau, the workouts will change, and the different exercises and routines will keep you interested and motivated. In a nutshell, periodization will allow you to get the fastest results possible. Are you with me? Great, let's move on. I'm sure you've seen a lot of bonehead exercises being done in the gym. You know, like squats on a Bosu ball. Enough with the damn Bosu ball already. Leg extensions, machine shoulder presses. I could go on and on and on. But there are some sneaky exercises that might seem good for MMA but aren't. For example, punching with bands might seem like a good idea, but when you break down the mechanics of the exercise, you can see that it's detrimental to your game. Here's why. 3 bad things happen. First, when you throw a punch, you want your arm to be relaxed and more like a whip and snap it out there. When you punch with a band, your arm is tense and you tend to push instead of punch. 2. When you train punching, you throw through a full range of motion. But when you punch with a band, you tend to limit your range of motion. And finally 3. When you punch for real, you train to pull your arm back as fast as possible so you can throw the next strike or defend yourself. But when you punch with a band, the band pulls your arm back instead of you pulling it back, so you detrain this ability, making for slower combos and more holes in your defense. Plus, it increases your risk of injury since the muscles that usually pull your arm back shut off, allowing you to throw your arm out of its socket. Now this is what happens when someone with no foundation in how the body actually works looks at a sport and tries to create a training program for it. They get you to mimic the skills of the sport with added weights and resistance. Doing this will totally screw up the mechanics and timing of a technique you spent hundreds of hours mastering, wasting all of that time and hard work. Your strength and conditioning program should train your muscles and nervous system to be stronger, faster, and have better endurance, but should not try to mimic your martial arts skills. And this is the second principle, the principle of specificity. If you want to be good at punching with your fists, then train with punching with your fists. Don't train punching with weights or bands. Your strength and conditioning program develops your muscles and nervous system. You then take your new, improved muscles and nervous system and use them to hit harder, be more explosive, and be fresh for 3 hard rounds. So we've talked about what you don't want to be doing. Now let's talk about what you must do to get in incredible shape for MMA. MMA is a complex and demanding sport. Let's face it, you wouldn't be here if you already had all the cardio you want. Your strength and conditioning program must be equally complex to match the demands of the sport. To truly develop endless cardio requires a multifaceted approach, just like how being successful in MMA requires striking, clinch work, takedowns, takedown defense, wrestling, grappling, and more. If you're going deep into the woods, would you rather have a Swiss Army knife or a butter knife? And that's exactly why your strength and conditioning program must include many different components so that you're a well-rounded fighter who's ready for any type of fight. For starters, you've got to train the 3 energy systems, the aerobic, anaerobic lactic, and anaerobic alactic. Not only does each energy system need to be trained specifically, we've got to train each for both power and endurance. Next, you need to train the muscles in 6 major movement patterns and accessory movement patterns required by MMA. The 6 major movement patterns are the squat, deadlift, lunge, twist, push, and pull. Exercises must be chosen to balance these movement patterns and prioritize the specific demands of mixed martial arts. Next, Bruce Lee called the core your center of power, and he was right. Your core is where you develop your power to knock your opponent out with one blow. Many fighters train the core using sit-ups and crunches only, leading to an imbalanced core. Proper core development includes training in all 3 dimensions and different positions other than lying on your back, including face down and standing. You must also train the 8 biomotor abilities: strength, speed, power, agility, endurance, flexibility, coordination, and balance. And that's just a small sample of what you need to train to get in incredible shape for MMA. Now, you might be a little bit overwhelmed, maybe even more confused, but stick with me, because I'm about to give you a program that incorporates every component you need to make lightning fast improvements in your strength, power, and cardio. The bottom line is that you'd need to spend years and tens of thousands of dollars studying this stuff to get it all right. Luckily for you, I spent the time and money, so you don't have to. But before we continue, there's one more principle that makes this all work. If you're like most of the fighters I train, you probably have a job, school, or other priorities that limit how much time you can spend in the gym, not to mention your MMA training itself. That's why this last principle is key, and it's called the principle of least effort. This concept states that you should use the least effort to get the desired result. Now, this doesn't mean being lazy or not giving 100%, but organizing things in an intelligent and structured way that allows you to get the results you're looking for without wasting any time or energy that you could better spend training MMA or even just chilling out. In fact, if you're one of the guys who doesn't put in 100% and is afraid of hard work, please click away right now, because this program will not work for you and you won't get any results. But I know that you're probably here because you're interested in being the best mixed martial artist you can be, whether you're a pro, amateur, or you do it just for fun. By following these 3 simple principles, you'll develop brute strength, explosive power, and endless cardio, while training only 2 days per week. That's right, by following a structured program that's based on science and proven inside the octagon, you can achieve your physical potential while training only 2 days per week. The 3 principles you've just discovered will ensure you're doing only exercise that you need to be doing in the right order with built-in progression week to week, month to month. And now comes the really good news. When I started working with fighters 5 years ago,